The NHL Awards for the 2024 season have passed. McKinnon won the Hart, Quinn Hughes the Norris, Nikita Kucherov the privilege of having this guy I've never seen before do a silly voice that I think is an impression.
This would be your second Hart Trophy win. Do you know where you put the other one, or what do?
Yeah, it's at my office.
So much enthusiasm from Kucherov!
But the NHL Awards, as they have every year, left off my favorite award. The one I invented just last year, which I will be naming after its first recipient. The Marty Necas Award. Now, what is the Marty and how do we decide who gets it? For those of you who didn't watch the original video, which, looking at the views, is probably the majority of you, allow me to explain. The Marty is given to the player that I deem to be the most clutch in the regular season. Now, this is not a subjective award based off vibes. I have a very simple yet empirical formula for this trophy based off just two totals. Overtime goals and tying goals in the final 2 minutes of regulation, since that's when teams typically pull their goalie. Last year, Marty Necas had the highest total of combined OT goals and final minute tires of all time, with 7. But this year, I've extended the window for tying goals to count to include the final 2 minutes instead of just the last 60 seconds, which should, theoretically, make for a better race. 2024's chase for the Marty came down to 3 men. One had a goal total of 31, one had a goal total of 33, and one had a goal total of 69. These men were, respectively, Lucas Raymond, Bo Horvat, and obviously, by the goal total, Auston Matthews. Two very good players, and one that scores at a rate that hasn't been seen in 30 years. It was definitely an uphill climb for Raymond and Horvat, but did they outperform the league's deadliest goal scorer? Opening night of the season, the odds-on favorite put on a show.
Across, fell down, scored! It's a hat-trick on opening night!
Matthews scored with just 1 minute and 7 seconds remaining against the Canadiens, completing a hat-trick, the second goal of which was also with an empty net behind him. The Leaf was the first to strike in the race and did so in as dramatic a fashion as possible. It wasn't long until there was a response. October 20th, the Islanders' third game of the season. Bo Horvat came screaming in to pickle stab the tying goal past Akira Schmid. Though it was just his second of the game, and unlike Matthews' Leafs, Horvat's Islanders still dropped the matchup. The final goal tied the race up at 1-1 as Lucas Raymond dunked home a pass from JT Compher to beat the Isles in a game that Bo Horvat tied late, but not late enough to count for the Marty. November was silent as the competitors sized each other up. When you're going for an award as prestigious as the Marty, you can never know which one of your opponents will make the next move. It was Matthews, of course, who tried to quell the noise that he didn't have the intangibles it takes to win a Marty, tying a December 2nd game against the Bruins with just 6 seconds remaining. Horvat ties the race right back up just over a week later with Matthews on the ice.
Stopped him twice. Barzell charging back the other way. Got Horvat with him. Bo Horvat scores. Game winner. New York Islanders.
Matthews ripped the lead back just 3 days later. First scoring a goal to bring his team within 1 with under 2 minutes to play, which, though notable, doesn't count for our purposes, before scoring once again in the final minute to send the game to overtime.
Gives it back in front. Score! Are you watching this?
Not to be forgotten, Raymond fired a bullet past UC Saros in OT to bring the end of the calendar year scoreboard to 3-2. Matthews created the first 2-goal lead of the chase, getting in a man-on-man situation with Trevor Zegras and leaving the young Duck behind. Later in January, Bo Horvat, now under new management with Patrick Waugh behind the bench, swung in and scored on a heavy backhand shot.
With a path to the net, Horvat, winner!
Just days later, once again, Auston Matthews lost a forward that was covering him man-on-man, this time Nick Ehlers, and breaks a 0-0 tie to defeat the Jets in extra time. Horvat, with the only Marty-eligible goal of February, beat the Stars in OT once again, this time with a one-timer.
Barzell left circle, holds, fed across, score! Horvat! Again!
But Matthews was proving nearly impossible to catch. March 6th, he fired in another overtime goal for his 6th of the chase and 54th of the season. Since it seemed Raymond had fallen asleep, Horvat took it upon himself, scoring on a blast with just over 30 seconds left to tie an Isles game against the Senators. Raymond awakened in late March, netting a huge goal with only 13 seconds remaining in a must-win game for his team that was fighting viciously for a playoff spot. I'll give a slight spoiler. Matthews and Horvat were done scoring. In April, it was down to Lucas Raymond alone to run down the soon-to-be Rocket Richard winner. With just 2 games left in the season on April 15th, the Red Wings were in a true must-win game. They desperately needed both of their last 2 games against the Canadiens to even have a chance at the playoffs. With just under a minute and a half left in the game, Lucas Raymond rose to the occasion. The Wings went to overtime with their season and Raymond's chance for the Marty on the line. The next day, the Wings' final game of the season, Raymond would have his chance to carve his name into the Marty Necas trophy. And there the Red Wings were, down 1 with just 7 seconds left.
Comes back, quick shot! Scores! 3-3! David Perron! It's a tie game!
Well, that wasn't Lucas. But he still had OT to go for the tie. But as the Red Wings heard of their season's fate on the bench, solidified by a win from the Capitals, they surrendered their teammates' search for his Marty. Ultimately, it was the chalk pick who took home the Marty Necas trophy. A boring answer, unfortunately. But sometimes you just score so many goals that just by chance you score big goals. That doesn't take away from Matthews' season. Frankly, it adds to it. He scored a ton of goals and a ton of really important goals. He even scored that one in the playoffs. The guy who scored the most goals scored the most important regular season goals too.
This third power play, now Martyr in front. Matthews scores! It's number